These women are completely out of touch with reality. And you're right, ABC should wake up.
We've been put in there because according to Donald Trump, she's a 10. You know that's what it is.
But their smear campaign didn't just fail, it completely backfired.
Yep.
Chaos erupted on The View as Karoline Leavitt dropped bombshell revelations that
Karoline Leavitt, the youngest White House press secretary in history, made headlines after her appearance on The View, where she exposed the show's hypocrisy and bias in one of the most talked-about segments of the year. Known for her no-nonsense approach, Karoline entered the lion's den with a clear mission: to call out the outdated narratives perpetuated by legacy media outlets like The View, and to stand up against their attempts to undermine her credibility.
She's probably been put in there because according to Donald Trump, she's a 10. You know that's what it is.
These women are completely out of touch with reality. And you're right, ABC should wake up.
What followed was a fiery exchange that left the show's hosts visibly shaken and the audience buzzing. The segment began with Karoline addressing personal attacks from the hosts, particularly Joy Behar's thinly veiled comments about her being too young and pretty to have earned her position in the White House. Karoline didn't flinch. Instead, she turned the tables, calling out the panel for their contradictory stance on empowering women, while simultaneously tearing down a young female leader. This moment set the tone for the rest of the discussion, as Karoline proved she wasn't there to play defense, she was there to hold them accountable. Throughout the heated conversation, Karoline highlighted The View's reliance on sensationalized narratives and their tendency to frame political conversations in ways that align with their left-leaning bias. From attempts to dismiss new media outlets to their refusal to acknowledge alternative viewpoints, Karoline methodically deconstructed their arguments, leaving the panel with little to counter her points.
Here. Oh, yeah. Let me explain something to you, because without that wokeness, you might not have that job.
By the end of her appearance, it was clear that The View had underestimated her ability to stay composed, deliver facts, and expose their vulnerabilities. Karoline's performance on The View was more than just a viral moment. It was a symbolic shift in the power dynamics of media and politics. As younger voices like Karoline step forward to challenge the established narratives of legacy outlets, it's becoming increasingly clear that platforms like The View are struggling to maintain relevance in a media landscape that is rapidly evolving. Karoline Leavitt's appearance on The View quickly became one of the most explosive segments in the show's recent history, as she delivered a series of sharp rebuttals and hard-hitting truths that left the panel scrambling. From the very beginning, Karoline demonstrated that she wasn't there to play by The View's rules. She was there to expose the hypocrisy and double standards that have become synonymous with the show's brand of political commentary. One of the most talked-about moments of the exchange occurred when Joy Behar implied that Karoline's success was due to her appearance, a backhanded compliment that Karoline swiftly shut down. In her response, she pointed out the irony of Behar's comment, calling out the panel for claiming to champion women, while simultaneously trying to demean her accomplishments as the youngest White House press secretary in history. This rebuttal not only silenced Behar, but also resonated with viewers who were tired of seeing women in leadership positions dismissed on the basis of superficial judgments. Whoopi Goldberg attempted to steer the conversation toward civil rights and wokeness, but Karoline was prepared. When Goldberg tried to conflate the push for racial equity with modern woke policies, Karoline delivered a precise and calm counterpoint, explaining how these two concepts had diverged, and how The View's rhetoric often conflated them to mislead viewers. Whoopi, visibly flustered, struggled to respond, further amplifying the impact of Karoline's well-reasoned arguments. Another viral moment came when Karoline addressed the panel's propensity to spread unverified narratives, using their recent attempt to connect Elon Musk to an alleged assassination plot as an example. With composure and clarity, she exposed the lack of journalistic integrity in these stories, pointing out how they fuel distrust in the media and alienate everyday Americans. This direct critique struck a nerve with the panel, as they were unable to mount an effective defense. Instead, their responses relied on emotional appeals, inadvertently proving Karoline's argument about their bias and lack of substance. By the end of the segment, it was clear that Karoline had not only held her own, but also outmatched the panel's attempts to dismiss her viewpoints. Her ability to remain composed under pressure, deliver fact-based arguments, and dismantle the host's talking points left a lasting impression, not just on the audience, but also on the broader conversation about media accountability.
These women are completely out of touch with reality, and you're right, ABC should wake up.
They're now unloading all their nasty attacks on rising Trump White House star and new press secretary, Karoline Leavitt. Watch this.
Chaos erupted on The View as Karoline Leavitt dropped bombshell revelations that
During her appearance on The View, Karoline Leavitt didn't just defend herself against the panel's critiques. She used the platform to highlight her broader mission to bring accountability and transparency to the media landscape. As the youngest White House press secretary in history, Karoline has become a symbol of a new generation that's challenging the dominance of legacy media outlets like The View. In her calm yet pointed remarks, she outlined her commitment to redefining how the media interacts with politics and public figures, focusing on facts over narratives. One of the most significant points Karoline raised was her decision to allocate press seats to new media outlets during White House briefings. She explained that this move was designed to break the monopoly of traditional legacy media, which often operates with unchecked influence. By giving alternative outlets a platform, Karoline ensured that diverse perspectives could be represented, pushing back against the narrative control that has long been a hallmark of mainstream media organizations. While the hosts of The View tried to question the legitimacy of these outlets, Karoline defended them as critical voices that represent a broader spectrum of the American public. Another pivotal moment came when Karoline revealed that her administration had restored press passes to over 440 journalists who were unfairly barred under previous administrations. This action, she explained, was part of her commitment to ensuring transparency and accountability in political communication. The announcement sparked visible frustration among the panel, with some hosts implying that expanding press access could lead to unreliable reporting. Karoline countered this by emphasizing that open access is the cornerstone of a free press, and that trust should be built through honest reporting and fact-based dialogue, not gatekeeping. Karoline also took the opportunity to highlight how legacy media outlets, including The View, rely on sensationalism to maintain relevance, often at the expense of facts. She pointed out how the show has consistently misrepresented events or individuals to fit their narrative, further eroding public trust in media institutions. This critique struck a chord with viewers who have grown increasingly disillusioned with what they perceive as biased and out-of-touch media coverage. By presenting herself as a champion of transparency and fairness, Karoline positioned her approach as a direct challenge to the old guard of media. Her remarks served as a rallying cry for a new era of accountability, where alternative voices are given the same respect and platform as traditional outlets. Her vision resonated with viewers, particularly younger audiences, who see the rise of new media as a necessary disruption in an industry that has long resisted change. Karoline Leavitt's appearance on The View didn't just spark controversy, it exposed the show's growing credibility problem. For years, The View has thrived on heated debates and polarizing commentary, but Karoline's sharp critiques highlighted just how far the show has drifted from its original purpose as a platform for diverse perspectives. By directly challenging the panel's biases, Karoline forced the hosts to confront their own contradictions and selective narratives, leaving them scrambling for answers and unintentionally proving her point. One of Karoline's most devastating critiques was how The View frames itself as a space for open dialogue, while repeatedly shutting down opposing viewpoints. She pointed out that the panel's rhetoric often crosses the line into sensationalism and partisan bias, alienating viewers who expect balanced and thoughtful discussions. This was particularly evident during her interaction with Joy Behar, whose comments about Karoline's appearance not only came across as dismissive, but also contradicted the show's proclaimed mission of empowering women. By calling out this hypocrisy in real time, Karoline laid bare the cracks in The View's facade of inclusivity. The show's reliance on emotional appeals rather than fact-based arguments was another key focus of Karoline's critique. When Whoopi Goldberg attempted to draw parallels between wokeness and civil rights, Karoline responded with calm, well-reasoned points that highlighted the distinction between historical movements for justice and modern political buzzwords. Whoopi's inability to effectively counter Karoline's arguments exposed the panel's dependence on surface-level talking points rather than substantive debate. For viewers, this moment underscored why The View has struggled to maintain its credibility in an increasingly critical media landscape. Perhaps the most telling sign of The View's credibility collapse came when Karoline addressed the panel's tendency to spread unverified or misleading narratives. She specifically cited their recent attempt to connect Elon Musk to a supposed assassination plot, calling it an example of reckless speculation disguised as legitimate discourse. The panel's inability to defend their handling of the story reinforced Karoline's assertion that The View often prioritizes sensationalism over journalistic integrity. The fallout from this exchange was swift. On social media, many viewers applauded Karoline's composure and criticized the panel for failing to engage in meaningful dialogue. The segment further polarized audiences, with critics calling for The View to either overhaul its format or risk becoming irrelevant in a media landscape that increasingly values authenticity and accountability. For The View, Karoline's appearance marked a turning point. What was intended as an opportunity to challenge a prominent conservative voice instead became a showcase of the panel's own shortcomings, leaving their reputation more fragile than ever. As younger, more dynamic voices like Karoline rise to prominence, the question looms: can The View adapt to this new era of media accountability, or is it doomed to fade into irrelevance? 5. Conclusion.
These women are completely out of touch with reality, and you're right, ABC should wake up.
Nasty attacks on rising Trump White House star and new press secretary, Karoline Leavitt. Watch this.
Karoline Leavitt's appearance on The View was far more than just another heated segment. It was a watershed moment for the accountability of legacy media outlets. By standing her ground and challenging the panel's biases, Karoline highlighted the growing divide between traditional media's partisan narratives and the demands of a modern, more skeptical audience. Her pointed critiques of The View's hypocrisy, reliance on sensationalism, and inability to handle opposing viewpoints left a lasting impression, both on the show's credibility and the broader media landscape. For years, The View has been positioned as a forum for diverse opinions, but Karoline's takedown exposed the reality that it often dismisses or misrepresents voices that don't align with its progressive agenda. Moments like Joy Behar's attempt to undermine Karoline's achievements and Whoopi Goldberg's inability to defend her conflated arguments revealed the limitations of the show's approach to meaningful dialogue. Instead of fostering healthy debate, the panel relied on emotional appeals and surface-level talking points, which only further alienated audiences seeking genuine conversations. Karoline's appearance also underscored the growing influence of new media and alternative voices in shaping the public discourse. By emphasizing the importance of transparency, restoring press access to excluded journalists, and advocating for a broader range of perspectives in political discussions, Karoline positioned herself as a leader in the movement to challenge the dominance of legacy outlets like The View. Her composure and clarity stood in stark contrast to the panel's defensive responses, resonating with viewers who are increasingly critical of the media's perceived lack of accountability. As The View faces intensified backlash following this segment, the show is now at a crossroads. Can it adapt to the changing media landscape and regain public trust? Or will it continue to lose relevance as audiences gravitate toward platforms and personalities that prioritize facts over narratives? Karoline's performance has undoubtedly added to the pressure on legacy outlets to evolve, or risk becoming relics of a bygone era. For Karoline Leavitt, This appearance has solidified her status as a rising force in political and media circles. Her ability to call out hypocrisy without resorting to theatrics has made her a symbol of change, representing a new generation unafraid to challenge established norms. As the media continues to grapple with questions of bias and credibility, figures like Karoline will likely play a central role in reshaping the conversation and holding outlets accountable for their actions. Do you think Karoline effectively called out the show's biases? Or is this just another example of media polarization? Let's hear your take. For more deep dives into political showdowns, media accountability, and breaking news, subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications. This is only the beginning of the conversation, and we'll keep bringing you the latest developments.